Well, let's discuss all this with Tory MEP and leading Brexiteer Dan Hannan, who's in Brussels. With me here is Radosław Sikorski, the former Polish foreign minister. Can I ask you, Mr. Sikorski, first? We know Brexit is causing ruptions. What has got us to this point today in the last, as opposed to where we were 2 weeks ago? What has been the cause? Who's to blame?
Well, I think leaks are unhelpful, but equally electioneering atmosphere heightens emotions. And I don't think serious governments respond to newspaper articles. We need serious people to discuss serious issues, because otherwise this could be the beginning of a train wreck.
Right, and is Theresa May's government and Boris Johnson and David Davis, is that a serious government, or is that, are you suggesting that they're not?
What was leaked, and Theresa May has confirmed it was true.
Well, she hasn't really, but...
In effect. Is nothing, we learned nothing else than we've heard from British politicians on the record. I think what the EU delegation was shocked by was when they realized that this wasn't just propaganda, that they really believed in their own propaganda, and they tried to signal, look, you need to become more realistic. But of course, in the terms of the British election campaign, it makes sense to make the EU the enemy. But of course, that's a very dangerous game.
Right. Daniel Hannan, it is a dangerous game, isn't it? Because if Theresa May wins the election, she's going to be dealing with these people and actually having to negotiate with them.
And I still expect that to be a cordial and mutually beneficial negotiation. I mean, I've learnt, Evan, in the years that I've been doing this, and I'm sure you have in the years you've been doing that, that it's actually what people say on the record that really matters. Leaks you can't be held to, but you really have to think about what you're saying on paper. And if you look at the EU's formal position, the guidelines that were agreed in that famously short meeting, they're really not so far off what the British government is pushing for. We agree that there should be a free trade agreement. We agree on military and security cooperation. We agree on not wanting a hard border in Ireland. We agree on reciprocity for the rights of citizens who have already settled in each other's jurisdictions. So there's no reason for this to be a process that spins out of control. Right. But it was unfortunate to have had this leak and then at the same time this story about the money, which can have only had the effect it had.
But do you think Theresa May was right to ramp it up again by saying they're interfering in our election? It was sort of reminiscent of claims about Putin and Trump and all those kinds of things.
Well, I mean, this was not a situation of her making. I mean, look at it from her point of view. She has this supposedly private dinner. She then finds herself being traduced in the most outrageous way in a foreign newspaper. Then at the same time, we get this 100 billion. I mean, you know, there's a suspiciously round figure. You might almost say, Evan, cynically, that it's been plucked out of the air for theatrical effect, 100 billion. You know, it would be bizarre for her not to say, look, this reminds us of the magnitude of the choice in front of the country next month. Do you want me in our corner? Or would you rather have Jeremy Corbyn and his allies batting for Britain in these talks?
Radek Sikorski, do you think the EU has been blameless on this? I mean, you've accepted that the leak is not good, and that, in a sense, provoked the latest scuffles. But do you think the EU has been blameless? Because it was 60 billion, and it seems to have gone up to 100 billion. Now, what is that?
Well,
what's that about?
First of all, let's remember, the EU is a 15 trillion euro economy. 60 or 100 billion is you know, not is.
But it's quite a lot to us. I mean, but you know,
sure,
you can dismiss it.
But
yeah,
also remember, 10 of that is liabilities of British bureaucrats' pensions. Yeah, why should continental taxpayers pay for that? And then this is an outcome of a budget in whose negotiation Britain participated. And by the way, I think the figure could be cut significantly if Britain gets an extension on the negotiating period, because then some of the liabilities will be covered from that year. So I think there are ways of handling it, but there needs to be a little bit of trust and goodwill on both sides,
well,
because otherwise we will have a really mean train wreck.
Everybody agrees there needs to be goodwill. Daniel Hannan, if the bill is 60 billion, 100 billion, whatever it is, do you think it is worth Britain paying that bill to get a deal? Or would you say, no, no deal is better than a deal that involves tens of billions?
Well, of course, it's a statement of the obvious that no deal is better than a bad deal, right? I mean, if you would say the bill is a trillion, then I think everyone would accept that would, well, everyone except maybe Nick Clegg, he'd still be saying, well, I don't know.
No,
but
Nick
the rest
Clegg
of us
said
would
it was
all
unreasonable.
But, all right, OK, well, even Nick Clegg there. But I think the only fair way of resolving the financial issue is to ask an independent tribunal, some international court or other arbitrator to look at all the assets and all the liabilities, and both sides to agree to abide by the outcome. And I think that will then take that issue off the table. I think our legal obligation is probably a lot smaller than that, but I think we should be prepared to act in a spirit of goodwill and cordiality. These are important friends and allies of ours.
Right, and I'll take from that paying quite a bit of money is part of that.
Yeah, but not 100 billion.
Thank you both very much indeed.